So many new things, and here's Alistair. Not really new, but he is new, but he's not because he's been here before. Now, this is cool because 2 years ago at Gencon, um, Alistair and the Bears were all the top armies. There wasn't a lot of options then, but every top army had Alistair and the Bears. So it's cool that you can do that now in Contemporary. So Alistair. He's just so cool. And he's huge. And he's such a warrior. And now his new figure's way more jacked than before. Looks like he can't even move, probably. And then his sword has more detail and whatnot. He looks a little more cartoony, so I almost like the old one better, but he's definitely huger than he was. He's got the old look cards and the new look cards. He's from Earth. And he's a human champion that's valiant. So he can go in those valiant 10th armies, or not 10th, 4th mass armies. And he typically goes best with the McDurks, like I was saying in that video. And he can go with knights and whatnot just to be a hard hitter. He's just a great bonding hard hitter. For only 110, he can hit for. He can move 5, attack for 5, and then he can overextend once per round. You just put 1 wound on him, which he has 6 life, so that's not bad. Then he can move another 5 and hit for 5 again. That's basically like 10 move and 2 attacks of either 5 or 6, because you can easily get on height when you're moving twice. And you can take out range guys easily and go after certain targets pretty well. But if you have him with the McDurks, you do have to play him a little more reserved because you want to wound him a bit, but then not continue to wound him, because if he dies, their attack goes back down. But if he's wounded, their attack goes up. So he can wound himself though too, so he doesn't have to get in much danger at all to serve his purpose in the entire army. But if you have him with bears, or if you have him with knights, things like that. You could also have them with the new bears, by the way. You can freaking just do tons of damage, especially the new bears. That's like what they want to do. They can move like 6, 7, or 8, I believe, and that, as they die, and then they have big stats, so they're just running around killing things, and he's just running around killing things with them. That could be one of the most fun little pods there is, honestly, but can't use them at this Gen Con, but maybe the next one. That could be a cool pod to use. And so those Knights and Jandar builds and that bear build is just growing and growing. And yeah, he's one of my favorites. He's very simple as well. Very, very, very simple. Which is super good. Alrighty. And you can take a glyph right in the beginning with him if you really want to, with that overextend, before anybody else can get to it typically. But not sure if that's the move you always want to make with him, but it could be. Alright, here's his lore. The whetstone glides steadily along the well-used blade of the claymore. With each pass, the effort is smoother as the edge is honed back to cutting shape. The battle-scarred hand that holds the stone is like a brother to the sword it sharpens. It knows every notch in the hilt, every tiny scratch on the surface of the blade. Sergeant Drake Alexander watches his friend's work, both eyes following the repetitive course of the whetstone. I know it's a lot to ask, Alistair, especially after all these years. Drake removes his helmet, resting it on the step next to them and wiping his brow. Heck, I wasn't even sure what to think at first myself. He pauses, looking out over the rolling hills and the rocky crags of the Nostraland countryside. The sound of stone on metal stops as Alistair examines his work before looking up from the blade. It reminds me of home at times, though I do wonder if I'd even know my own country after so long in this world, eh? The Scotsman pauses, then routs the claymore and begins his work again. He probably wouldn't know his home anymore. I'm sure there's some open fields that he could enjoy, but definitely some new things going on. Those blue bastards and fleshless beasts have cut down many of my brothers, Drake. Yours too, if I recall. He's talking about the orcs and the Morrow. I know, trust me, I know that, Alistair, but I trust Jandar with my life. Drake looks over at his friend. Ukar's gone, as crazy as it sounds, and this might just be our best chance at finding peace for this world, and something like safety for the rest of our worlds to boot. The Scotsman stands up, sheathing his enormous blade. Scars crisscross his muscled forearms like writing, weaving a story of countless battles fought. He extends a hand to the sergeant and gives a knowing smile. Hey, lad, you're right. Jandar is an honorable leader and a good man. I haven't stopped fighting yet. And Idene which meaning I do not, intend to quit anytime soon. Besides, he added, any beasts of Utgars are still better allies than the bloody English. Okay, the Scottish don't like the English. Makes sense. That's crazy that he would say that, though. So yeah, they hate Morrow and orcs so much, but because of the new alliance, now they're allied with them. But he's like, better than being with the English. Which is ironic, because I thought Sergeant Drake was British, but, whatever. Kind of weird to say. Maybe he doesn't know. The two veterans of the war for Valhalla let out a hearty laugh as they make their way back into the fortress. The Fortress of Solitude. The Fortress of Nostraland, out in the winter cold. That's why they're so big, they need to stay warm. Anyway, yeah, that's Alistair. Let me know what you guys think. See you in the next one.